Welcome back to Cash and Sass, the podcast where we ditch the shame, talk real numbers, and build bold, bankable wealth without sacrificing who we are. I'm your host, Lisa Marie, fractional CFO, money mentor, and the Sassy Wealth Queen behind Transcendent Wealth Co. If you are ready to scale with strategy, own your power, and finally feel wealthy in every sense of the word, then you're in the right place. In this episode, we're talking about the moment when do-it-yourself financial leadership isn't enough anymore, and why having a strategic sounding board can accelerate clarity, confidence, and profitability in ways that spreadsheets alone never will. So let's dive in. If you've been building your financial clarity the way we've talked about, your baseline, you've defined your pay standard, you're protecting your margin, you've created structure. That's powerful. It's golden. It's needed. But there's a stage in business where something shifts. You're no longer confused. You're no longer financially foggy. You're just carrying too much. And this stage is dangerous. Not because you're failing, because you're growing. In the early stages of business, scrappiness works. We've all done it, including me. You make quick decisions, you adjust on the fly, you experiment. But as your revenue increases, complexity increases faster than confidence. More clients, more team, more payroll, more tax exposure, more commitments, more contracts, more risk. And suddenly, your decisions are no longer $500 decisions. They're $50,000 decisions, $150,000 decisions, six-figure hiring decisions. And y'all, that changes the emotional weight completely. Now, what happens when you keep doing it alone? This is what I see all the time with capable founders. They think, I've handled it this far. I'll just keep figuring it out. I don't need help yet. But what actually starts happening is they delay decisions. They sit on hiring. They hesitate on expansion. They overthink investments, any investment. They stall pricing increases. They may even decrease their revenue, meaning their take-home pay. They postpone restructuring. I am guilty of that. Should have done that a long time ago, and it came back and bit me. And it's not because I lack intelligence. It's not because of that. It's because the weight of being the only filter gets heavy. And I'll say that again. The weight of being the only filter gets heavy. Every decision runs through your nervous system. And when everything runs through your nervous system, fatigue sets in. If it hasn't set in, it will. And fatigue causes one of two reactions, either overcaution or overcompensation. And y'all, both are expensive. The cost of overcaution looks responsible on the surface. Underneath, you underhire, you underinvest, you underscale. You miss windows of opportunity because you wait for certainty that never comes. And your business plateaus, not because revenue is insufficient, but because leadership is isolated. Then there's the cost of overcompensation. Overcompensation looks bold, okay? However, underneath, you hire too quickly, you expand without modeling, you commit to overhead without reserves, you trust projections without pressure testing them. And growth becomes adrenaline-fueled instead of strategic. Been there, done that. And that's when profit leaks accelerate. So what does a strategic sounding board even provide, Lisa? I'm glad you asked. A true strategic sounding board doesn't take over. Because I guarantee you, a lot of you are thinking, oh, you're just talking about taking over. No, I'm not. A true strategic sounding board does not take over. Instead, they stabilize your thinking. They ask questions like, what happens if this hire underperforms? What does this decision do to your margin 6 months from now? What does your tax exposure look like at this revenue level? What's your real break even after payroll expansion? If the revenue dips 25%, are you still safe? Y'all, that's not fear-based. That's leadership-based. Those are questions I guarantee you all the big, huge, wealthy people out there, they ask, they have that sounding board and they're asking those. And that type of modeling shifts everything. Because once you see the full picture, decisions stop feeling heavy. They start feeling informed. Let me give you some real life patterns I see. A founder at 40K months hires 2 team members at once without modeling payroll impact across slow months. What happens? Revenue dips. Margin disappears and her stress spikes up. Not because hiring was wrong, because the modeling was missing. Meaning, would it have been better to hire one and then hire the second one so many months later? It's looking at the big picture to see what it's going to do, right? Another example, a founder increases their revenue from 30K to 75K months, but does not increase the tax allocations proportionally. Can you say what happens? Next tax season, 6-figure shock. Not because growth was bad. It's because the forecasting wasn't upgraded. Or a founder keeps raising revenue, but never defines enough. So lifestyle inflates with income. What happens? Margin stays thin. Wealth never actually accumulates. Basically traded one job for another. I don't know about y'all, but I don't want that. Y'all, that's not a math issue. That's a strategic leadership gap. Now, I am now going to talk about something that no one ever want to talk about. Money is emotional. Money decisions aren't just math. They're emotional decisions. They hit identity. Hiring hits control. Pricing hits worth. Investing hits risk tolerance. Scaling hits capacity. And when you're alone in those decisions, you tend to make them from one of 2 places, fear or ego. Y'all, a sounding board removes both. They bring grounding perspective. I have a sounding board. Yes, I am a fractional CFO. I'm a money queen. I'm the Sassy Wealth Queen. I'm a money guru, and I have a sounding board because I'm in it. And if I'm that close in it, I want a sounding board so that fear and ego are removed. And instead, I have, and they help me have grounded perspective. They remind you what the data actually is, what the projection is, and they remind you about the assumptions, what the assumption is. And that separation builds calm, and calm leaders make profitable decisions. And y'all, it doesn't matter how sound your structure is, money is still an emotional decision. So you want a sounding board to help you be grounded. Now, how do you know you're at this stage, that you've outgrown the pure do-it-yourself? You understand your numbers, but you don't fully trust your interpretations. You want to grow, but do not want to destabilize what you've built. That's a big one. You want to grow sustainably because you don't want to destabilize what you've built. You're making strong revenue, but you feel tight, not expansive. And you're capable, but you're tired of carrying it alone. If that's you, that's not weakness. That's evolution. That means you're growing, you're expanding. And all the wealthy people have a team. They have the sounding board so that they don't have to carry it alone, which good news is you don't either. Even at this stage, patterns matter because they can still creep in. You can be revenue strong and still avoid recalculating margin, inflate projections during growth, during that growth excitement. Oh, and you inflate the projections because you're not really being strategic. You can normalize thin profit because your revenue is rising. Overcommit during expansion cycles, delay uncomfortable financial conversations. And these are normally subtle and they're incredibly common. That's why I created the 7 Money Pitfall email series, because before someone hires high-level support or even considers it, they need awareness of the behavioral patterns quietly shaping their decisions. Now, in this email series, each day you walk through one common financial leadership pitfall, how it shows up in scaling business, the real cost of ignoring it, and the shift that restores control. This is not about shame. And I'm going to say that again. This is not about shame. It's about visibility. It's about awareness. Because once you can name the pattern, you stop personalizing it. You stop thinking something's wrong with me. And you start thinking, that's the pattern. Now I can fix it. If you're listening to this and you're thinking, I'm not confused, I'm just carrying too much, or I want to grow, but I want to grow grounded. I don't want to have chaos, Lisa. I'm ready for strategic clarity. Then I want you to start with awareness. Before you do anything else, start with awareness. Sign up for the 7 Money Pitfall email series. Before you scale any further, before you hire again, before you expand your overhead, identify the pattern, strengthen the foundation, and then grow intentionally. The link is in the show notes, okay? Y'all, clarity compounds. So does pressure if it's left unmanaged. Choose clarity. Until next time, remember, confidence and cash are the ultimate power duo. Go check in with your money, and as always, have a fantastic and wealthy day.